Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Mystery Channel. Tonight, we'll be exploring the Roswell incident, the curious case that shaped how we think about hidden technology, secret discoveries, and the possibility of contact beyond Earth. For decades, Roswell has remained one of the most disputed events in modern history. Official explanations have changed over time, while witness accounts have continued to raise new questions. Some researchers see a classified military operation, while others believe the truth may involve something far more extraordinary. As we look closer, we will encounter disputed documents, missing records, strange testimony, and claims that powerful institutions concealed what really happened. We will also consider the idea that misinformation became part of the mystery itself. Perhaps some stories were encouraged because they helped protect a deeper secret. If you enjoy these curious journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is settle in. Let your shoulders soften. Let your breathing slow. And allow your mind to settle into stillness as we explore one of history's most enduring mysteries together. Let's begin. The military announced a strange captured object before completely changing their story. On the morning of July 8, 1947, Roswell Army Airfield released a statement that seemed to confirm the impossible. Officers said personnel from the base had recovered a flying disc from a nearby ranch. Newspapers carried the announcement across the country. Then the story changed within hours. At Fort Worth, senior officers displayed torn foil, rubber strips, and wooden pieces. They now said the mysterious object was only a weather balloon. That reversal became the foundation of the entire Roswell mystery. The original statement had not come from an excited civilian or an anonymous witness. It came from the intelligence office of an elite military base. Supporters of the cover-up theory believe the first announcement revealed the truth before higher authorities intervened. Skeptics argue that inexperienced officers simply misunderstood unfamiliar balloon equipment. Yet the central puzzle remains powerful. Why would trained military personnel publicly identify a flying disc if the wreckage was ordinary and easily recognized? Roswell became the world's greatest alien mystery through one unexplained reversal. Many famous mysteries grew slowly through rumors and later investigation. Roswell became extraordinary almost overnight because the public received two completely different explanations from the same military command. First came the astonishing claim that a disc had been recovered. Then came the insistence that nothing unusual had happened. That contradiction created a gap which no later report has fully closed. Every new explanation has had to account for why the first one was issued at all. The reversal also arrived during the opening weeks of America's flying saucer craze. People were already watching the skies and wondering whether strange craft had entered the modern world. Roswell gave those fears a physical location and an official voice. Some people believe the military corrected an honest mistake. Others suspect the correction was the mistake, created to contain a discovery that had escaped control. Either way, the mystery did not begin with distant speculation. It began when one official account directly replaced another. Rancher Mac Brazel discovered wreckage unlike anything he claimed to recognize. William Mac Brazel managed a remote ranch northwest of Roswell. After a violent storm, he found unusual material scattered across the property. Accounts differ concerning exactly when he discovered it and how long he waited before reporting it. What matters is that Brazel had seen ordinary ranch debris before. He knew wire, rubber, paper, and weather instruments were not rare in New Mexico. Yet he reportedly believed this material deserved the sheriff's attention. Early descriptions included thin foil, strong paper-like pieces, tape, and lightweight fragments. Later retellings made the wreckage far stranger. Some said it could not be burned or cut. Others remembered material that folded without leaving a crease. Skeptics believe these details grew through decades of repetition. Supporters argue that the earliest public reports were deliberately softened. Roswell himself became harder to interpret after military involvement. Before that intervention, he had treated the discovery as something genuinely unusual. The mystery begins with a practical rancher who apparently found something he could not comfortably identify. Intelligence officer Jesse Marcel believed the recovered debris came from another world. Major Jesse Marcel served as the intelligence officer at Roswell Army Airfield. His position made him one of the most important figures in the case. He accompanied counterintelligence officer Sheridan Cabot to inspect the ranch and collect material. Decades later, Marcel said the wreckage was unlike anything made on Earth. He described pieces that seemed incredibly light and unusually strong. His testimony transformed Roswell from an old newspaper curiosity into a worldwide controversy. Marcel was not presented as a casual observer. He had experience with military equipment and sensitive operations. That background gave his claims unusual weight. Critics note that memory can shift over 30 years, especially after repeated interviews. They also point to inconsistencies in later accounts. Even so, Marcel never accepted the weather balloon display as an honest representation of what he recovered. He believed ordinary material had been substituted for the public photographs. For believers, his rank and certainty suggest direct knowledge. For skeptics, his testimony shows how memory can reshape a confusing event. Witnesses later claimed that strange bodies were removed from a second crash site. The earliest Roswell newspaper stories focused entirely on wreckage. Claims about bodies emerged much later and changed the mystery dramatically. Several witnesses eventually described a separate location where a damaged craft and small occupants were allegedly found. Some accounts placed the site north of Roswell. Others moved it farther west, or toward the plains of San Agustin. The reported beings were usually described as small, human-like, and unlike anything familiar. Military trucks supposedly carried them away beneath heavy security. No confirmed photograph or medical record has surfaced. That absence allows skeptics to dismiss the stories as later additions inspired by popular culture. Believers answer that biological evidence would have received the highest possible classification. They also argue that witnesses remained silent because they feared military punishment. The second site theory attempts to explain why the ranch contained scattered fragments rather than an intact vehicle. It proposes that debris separated from a craft before the main object came down elsewhere. If true, Roswell was not merely a recovery. It was humanity's first hidden encounter. The official weather balloon explanation concealed a highly classified surveillance program. The balloon explanation sounded ordinary in 1947, but the full story was not ordinary at all. Decades later, the United States Air Force connected the Roswell debris with Project Mogul. This secret program used high-altitude balloon trains to detect sound waves from possible Soviet atomic tests. The mission was so sensitive that many military personnel would not have known its purpose. That secrecy offers a practical reason for the sudden change in public statements. Officials may have preferred a harmless weather balloon story rather than reveal an advanced intelligence operation. Project Mogul also used large arrangements of balloons, radar reflectors, cords, and monitoring equipment. Such a train could scatter material across a wide area after crashing. Skeptics see this as the strongest conventional explanation. Yet doubts remain because records surrounding the suspected launch are incomplete and disputed. Some witnesses also described material that seemed far beyond foil and wooden supports. Project Mogul may explain why authorities concealed the truth. The deeper question is whether it explains everything they were concealing. Some researchers believe Roswell involved two craft colliding during a violent storm. One of the more dramatic Roswell theories proposes that two unknown craft were flying near the region when a severe electrical storm disrupted them. According to this idea, the first vehicle broke apart and scattered fragments across the Foster Ranch. A second craft continued for some distance before crashing more violently at another location. This scenario attempts to unite several conflicting witness accounts without forcing them into one site. It could explain why some people remembered a wide debris field while others described an almost complete vehicle. Supporters also point to reports of intense lightning during the period. They speculate that unfamiliar propulsion systems may have been vulnerable to electrical disturbance or military radar. There is no verified physical evidence that two craft existed. The theory developed by connecting testimony gathered many years after the event. Even so, it remains attractive because Roswell often seems too large for a single, simple crash. Perhaps the contradictions do not come from faulty memory. Perhaps different witnesses truly encountered different parts of the same extraordinary incident. Mysterious debris reportedly resisted fire and returned instantly to its original shape. Among all Roswell claims, the strange properties of the recovered material remain especially compelling. Witnesses described thin metallic sheets that could be folded or crushed without keeping a mark. Moments later, the material supposedly became perfectly smooth again. Other fragments were said to resist cutting, burning, and damage from heavy tools. Such qualities would have seemed impossible in the 1940s. Even modern memory metals do not precisely match every reported feature. Skeptics note that these descriptions appeared mainly in interviews conducted decades later. They suggest that ordinary foil from radar equipment became more remarkable as the story evolved. Believers argue that several people independently remembered similar behavior. They believe the material may have been engineered at a microscopic level or created from an unfamiliar alloy. Another possibility is that witnesses saw an advanced classified substance whose existence remained hidden. No authenticated sample has survived for open examination. That missing evidence keeps the claim unresolved. If the reports are accurate, the wreckage was not merely unusual. It represented technology far beyond its time. Military personnel allegedly warned local witnesses never to discuss what they had seen. Roswell testimony contains repeated claims of intimidation. Residents said officers visited homes, questioned families, and delivered firm warnings about national security. Some witnesses remembered being told that speaking publicly could bring serious consequences. Others claimed the threats extended to relatives. These stories became central to the belief that silence was enforced rather than voluntary. In 1947, the military held enormous authority in communities shaped by wartime secrecy. A direct order from an officer could have carried lasting psychological weight. Critics argue that later researchers sometimes asked leading questions and encouraged witnesses to reinterpret ordinary security instructions as threats. They also note that no written order demanding silence has been found. Supporters respond that intimidation works precisely because it leaves little paperwork. The alleged warnings could explain why dramatic accounts surfaced only after many participants had retired or reached old age. Fear may have weakened as decades passed. What remains unsettling is the consistency of the emotional memory. Several witnesses did not merely recall secrecy. They remembered being made afraid of what would happen if they talked. Roswell may have changed how governments handled extraordinary encounters forever. Before Roswell, military authorities had little public experience managing reports of mysterious aerial objects. The incident may have provided an early lesson in controlling information. A sensational announcement escaped from a local base and reached the national press. Senior officers then replaced it with a conventional explanation, before the story could develop further. Some people believe this became a model for later UFO cases. Local witnesses would be separated from physical evidence. Official language would remain cautious. Classified programs could be protected through explanations that sounded plausible but incomplete. There is no confirmed policy document showing that Roswell created such a system. Still, later encounters often followed a familiar pattern. Extraordinary reports appeared briefly before being reduced to balloons, aircraft, astronomical events, or mistakes. Supporters of disclosure believe Roswell taught authorities that uncertainty could be more effective than denial. The public did not need to accept one final explanation. It only needed enough competing stories to prevent agreement. Under that interpretation, Roswell's greatest legacy was not the alleged craft. It was the management of belief. A newspaper photograph may show substituted debris rather than the original wreckage. The most famous Roswell photographs were taken in Brigadier General Roger Ramey's office at Fort Worth. They show officers kneeling beside torn foil, rubber, paper, and pieces of a radar reflector. To many viewers, the material looks exactly like balloon equipment. Yet Jesse Marcel later said the photographed debris was not what he had collected from the ranch. He claimed the genuine wreckage had been removed before reporters arrived. This created a remarkable possibility. The photographs may document the cover story rather than the discovery itself. Supporters point to Marcel's expression and posture, which they interpret as discomfort. Skeptics caution that reading emotion from a still image is unreliable. They also argue that the visible materials match equipment used by Project Mogul. Another photograph appears to show Marcel holding genuine debris, although that interpretation remains disputed. The images therefore support opposite conclusions. One side sees proof of an ordinary balloon. The other sees a carefully arranged substitution. The camera captured something real that day. The mystery is what the military intended it to prove. General Roger Ramey posed beside materials that some witnesses immediately rejected. Roger Ramey commanded the 8th Air Force and took control of the Roswell story after the flying disc announcement spread. In his office, he presented debris that reporters could easily understand. The display included damaged foil and a recognizable radar target. Ramey explained that officers at Roswell had misidentified a weather device. His calm authority helped end the immediate national excitement. Yet later, witnesses claimed the displayed material looked nothing like what had been recovered. Jesse Marcel said the substitution was obvious to him, but he followed orders and remained silent. Brigadier General Thomas Dubose also gave later statements suggesting that a cover story had been directed from higher command. Critics disputed the strength and consistency of those recollections. Ramey himself left no known confession. His role remains fascinating because he stood at the exact point where the public narrative changed. Perhaps he corrected an embarrassing mistake made by subordinates. Perhaps he carried out an urgent deception. Either way, the Roswell mystery entered his office as a flying disc and left as a balloon. The blurred Ramey memo may contain hidden words describing bodies and victims. In one Fort Worth photograph, General Ramey holds a sheet of paper while standing beside the displayed debris. The document is turned partly toward the camera. Its text is tiny, blurred, and difficult to separate from photographic grain. Researchers have spent years enlarging and analyzing it. Some believe they can identify words resembling victims, wreck, disc, and Roswell. If those readings are correct, the memo could be the only surviving document written during the incident that refers to recovered occupants. Other analysts see completely different words or nothing reliable at all. Image enhancement can create patterns that appear meaningful because the viewer expects to find them. Different copies of the photograph also contain different levels of detail. no interpretation has achieved broad agreement. The original negative could offer better resolution, but available images remain limited. This turns the memo into a mystery inside the mystery. A few faint lines may contain a direct record of what happened. They may also contain only routine language, distorted by distance and human expectation. Jesse Marcel Jr. remembered unusual symbols printed across a lightweight metallic beam. Jesse Marcel brought some recovered material home before taking it to the base. His young son later recalled being awakened and shown pieces spread across the kitchen floor. One fragment looked like a narrow beam and carried strange markings along its surface. Marcel Jr. compared them with symbols or decorative shapes. He said they did not resemble ordinary writing. The memory remained important because he encountered the material before military officials controlled the story. Supporters believe the markings suggest a manufactured object from an unknown culture. Skeptics connect them with floral patterns printed on adhesive tape used to assemble radar reflectors. That tape was reportedly produced by a toy company and could have looked unusual to a child. Marcel Jr. rejected that explanation and maintained that the symbols were unlike familiar designs. His account stayed broadly consistent through many interviews, although decades had passed. The beam has never been recovered. Its markings survive only through recollection. Yet those remembered shapes continue to separate an exotic machine from an unusual balloon in the minds of believers. Mac Brazel reportedly changed his description after spending days under military supervision. After reporting the wreckage, Brazel largely disappeared from public view for several days. When he returned, his account sounded more conventional. He told the press that the debris included rubber, foil, paper, and sticks. He also said he regretted the attention surrounding the discovery. Some witnesses believed he had been held or closely supervised by the military. They noticed that he appeared uneasy and less willing to discuss what he had originally found. Supporters of the cover-up theory see his changed behavior as evidence of pressure. A rancher who had confidently reported something unusual now seemed eager to end the story. Skeptics offer a simpler explanation. Brazel may have been overwhelmed by reporters and embarrassed after learning that the debris came from military equipment. His temporary absence could have involved routine questioning and travel to the recovery site. No confirmed detention record has surfaced. Still, the shift in his public manner remains striking. Roswell's first civilian witness became one of its least accessible voices immediately after authorities took control. Sheriff George Wilcox may have received threats against his entire family. George Wilcox served as sheriff of Chavez County when Brazel brought news of the wreckage into Roswell. According to later family testimony, Wilcox contacted the nearby Army airfield and soon found himself inside a highly sensitive operation. His granddaughter claimed that military personnel warned him not to speak about what he knew. The threat allegedly included his wife and children. Wilcox never became a public promoter of the alien story. He remained quiet until his death. Supporters believe that silence reflected fear rather than lack of knowledge. Skeptics point out that the account came through relatives many years later and cannot be independently verified. They also note that a sheriff would naturally cooperate with military officials during a tersified recovery. Yet the family remembered more than cooperation. They believed Wilcox had been deeply shaken by what occurred. Some versions suggest he visited a crash location and saw disturbing evidence. Others place him only at the center of communications. His exact role remains uncertain, but his silence became part of Roswell's atmosphere of control. Local radio station staff claimed officials stopped their planned Roswell broadcast. Roswell radio station KGFL reportedly prepared to broadcast an interview with Mac Brazel after the discovery became public. According to station personnel, A telephone warning arrived before the program could proceed. The caller allegedly threatened the station's license and warned that national security was involved. Another message may have come through a major network, reinforcing the order to abandon the story. If accurate, this suggests the information clampdown extended beyond military witnesses and reached civilian media. Supporters see the incident as evidence of rapid coordination at a national level. Skeptics question whether the threat was as dramatic as later remembered. Broadcasters in the 1940s were accustomed to cooperating with government requests concerning sensitive matters. The warning may have related only to classified balloon operations. Yet the timing remained significant. A local station stood close to the people and events involved. Its planned coverage might have preserved testimony before official explanations hardened. Instead, the broadcast never happened. Roswell's most immediate civilian voices were muted at the moment when their memories were newest and most detailed. Reporter Frank Joyce heard Brazel describe something stranger than balloon wreckage. Frank Joyce worked at Roswell radio station KGFL and became one of the earliest media figures connected with the case. He said Mac Brazel telephoned the station before the military announcement. According to Joyce, Brazel described unusual debris and appeared unsure what he had found. In later conversations, Joyce claimed that Brazel hinted at details he could not safely discuss. One disputed version includes a reference to small bodies, although critics believe that element emerged too late to trust. Joyce also recalled challenging Brazel after the rancher gave a more ordinary description to reporters. Brazel supposedly responded in a way that suggested he had been pressured. Supporters regard Joyce as a crucial witness because he heard the story before it became famous. Skeptics note that his account expanded over time and sometimes changed in emphasis. No recording of the original call survives. Even so, Joyce occupied a unique position between the discoverer and the public. He may have heard Roswell's uncensored story before military secrecy transformed it into something safer. Neighbors remembered military vehicles crossing the ranch before the story reached newspapers. Families living near the Foster Ranch later recalled unusual military activity in the area. They described trucks, jeeps, armed guards, and aircraft moving across land that was normally isolated and uneventful. Some remembered roads being controlled while personnel searched the ground. These recollections suggest an operation larger than the recovery of a few balloon fragments. Supporters believe the military conducted an extensive sweep to remove every trace of unfamiliar wreckage. They argue that even tiny pieces may have been considered technologically valuable. Skeptics respond that Project Mogul equipment was highly classified and would have justified a careful search. They also warn that memories of military movement could have merged with later exercises or local activity. The exact number of vehicles remains unknown. No complete operational log has been found. Yet the neighbors' accounts broaden the scale of the incident. Roswell was not remembered as one officer collecting a damaged weather device. It was remembered as a controlled recovery involving manpower, transport, and visible urgency across a wide section of remote ranchland. The recovered material allegedly covered a debris field hundreds of feet long. Descriptions of the Foster Ranch site often portray a narrow path of wreckage stretching across the ground. The field was said to contain countless fragments rather than one compact object. Some estimates made it several hundred feet long. Others expanded it to an even greater distance. The pattern suggested that something had broken apart while moving at high speed or had exploded before reaching the Earth. Supporters argue that a simple balloon train would have left recognizable equipment clustered around cords and instruments. They believe the broad distribution indicates a damaged craft shedding material across the landscape. Skeptics note that strong desert winds can scatter lightweight foil, paper, and balloon components over a surprisingly large area. Project Mogul trains were also much larger than ordinary weather balloons. The dimensions remain uncertain because no formal public survey was released. Later, investigators had to rely on witness memory and rough descriptions. Even so, the scale matters. Roswell's debris was not remembered as one object lying in the dust. It was remembered as an event written across the land. Project Mogul explains the secrecy, but not every reported feature of the wreckage. Project Mogul gives Roswell a convincing military context. The program used long balloon trains to detect signs of Soviet atomic testing from high in the atmosphere. Its purpose was highly classified, even though many of its physical parts were ordinary. That combination could explain why officials wanted the recovery hidden without admitting anything extraterrestrial. Yet the theory leaves several uncomfortable questions. Witnesses described materials with properties that balloons and radar targets did not possess. Others remembered a much larger recovery effort than one damaged experiment would seem to require. Supporters of the official account argue that memory added exotic details over time. They also note that secrecy can make routine equipment appear extraordinary. Critics reply that Project Mogul became useful precisely because it explained the secrecy while dismissing the strangest testimony. The program may have been part of the truth. It may even have been the cover story beneath the cover story. Roswell remains unsettled because one classified project can account for hidden activity without explaining every claim attached to it. One disputed flight record suggests the suspected Mogul balloon never actually launched. The strongest conventional explanation depends on a particular Project Mogul balloon train reaching the Roswell area. Researchers often connect the debris with Flight 4, which was scheduled for early June of 1947. The problem is that surviving project records suggest the launch may have been cancelled because of cloudy weather. Some defenders argue that a smaller cluster of balloons still went up. Others believe later notes prove that equipment was released, even if the full mission did not proceed. Critics see something more serious. If Flight 4 never left the ground, then the object blamed for Roswell may never have existed in the required form. The debate turns on logbooks, whether notes and language written for technicians rather than future investigators. That makes every phrase important. A simple distinction between cancelled and partially launched could decide whether the official explanation is possible. Roswell's greatest mystery may therefore depend on a routine entry made weeks before the world heard about a flying disc. Radar targets used decorative tape that may explain the reported alien symbols. Project Mogul radar reflectors were built with thin wooden supports and metallic foil. Some were assembled using adhesive tape decorated with small floral or geometric patterns. The tape reportedly came from a toy manufacturer. Decades later, that ordinary detail became central to one of Roswell's strangest memories. Jesse Marcel Jr. recalled symbols along a beam that seemed unlike any familiar writing. The patterned tape offers a simple explanation for what he saw as a child. Under dim kitchen lighting, unfamiliar designs on damaged material could have looked mysterious. Supporters of the alien theory remain unconvinced. Marcel Jr. said the markings resembled characters rather than flowers. He also insisted that the beam itself seemed unlike common wood. The dispute shows how one tiny manufacturing choice can shape an enormous mystery. Decorative tape may have created the appearance of extraterrestrial script. Or officials may have used the tape story because it conveniently imitated what witnesses remembered. The answer rests on a fragment that disappeared before anyone outside the military could examine it. Several witnesses insisted that ordinary balloon materials could not match their memories. The official explanation depends on the idea that witnesses misread common components from a secret balloon program. Yet many people connected with Roswell rejected that possibility. They remembered material that felt too light, too strong, or too unfamiliar to be rubber and foil. Some had handled weather equipment before. Others had lived near military operations and knew what ordinary debris looked like. Their confidence became a major obstacle for the balloon theory. Skeptics argue that confidence does not guarantee accuracy. Memories can grow sharper in feeling while becoming less reliable in detail. The passage of decades also allowed later stories to influence earlier recollections. Believers answer that not every witness could have invented the same sense of strangeness. They see a pattern that survived despite official pressure. The debate is not only about materials. It is about whether ordinary people can recognize when something lies outside their experience. Roswell asks us to choose between flawed memory and an extraordinary object whose physical evidence vanished almost immediately. Roswell Army Airfield housed the world's only operational atomic bombing unit. The base involved in Roswell was not an unimportant desert outpost. It was home to the 509th Bomb Group. At that time, this was the only military unit capable of delivering atomic weapons in combat. Its officers worked within one of the most sensitive environments on Earth. That fact changes how the original announcement feels. These were not people who handled only routine weather reports. They were trusted with the machinery of America's most powerful secret. Supporters argue that such personnel would not casually mistake balloon scraps for a flying disc. Skeptics respond that atomic expertise did not make every officer an expert in high-altitude research equipment. The base's importance also explains why any unidentified object nearby would receive immediate attention. A foreign surveillance device could have threatened national security. An unknown craft would have been even more serious. Roswell occurred beside the center of America's atomic striking power. Whatever landed there entered a military world already trained to protect secrets at almost any cost. The base intelligence office should have recognized standard weather equipment immediately. Jesse Marcel's job required him to assess threats, interpret unusual information, and report accurately to senior command. That makes the mistaken balloon explanation difficult for many people to accept. Weather balloons were familiar military tools. Radar reflectors were not alien technology. If the recovered pieces were ordinary, why did the base intelligence office allow a flying disc announcement to reach the press? One answer is that the equipment belonged to a compartmented program Marcel did not know about. Another is that excitement surrounding recent saucer reports influenced the decision. Supporters of a cover-up see the mistake as almost impossible. They believe trained officers recognized that the material was extraordinary and described it honestly until higher authority intervened. Skeptics argue that intelligent people can still misidentify damaged equipment when it appears outside its normal setting. The debris may have looked stranger after a storm and a rough landing. Even so, the original judgment came from a unit trusted with national security. Roswell remains powerful because the people who first examined the material were not expected to be easily fooled. Colonel William Blanchard authorized the flying disc announcement despite obvious career risks. Colonel William Blanchard commanded Roswell Army Airfield. The press release could not have emerged casually from such a sensitive base. Walter Haut later said Blanchard directed him to issue it. That decision exposed the commander to national embarrassment if the object proved ordinary. Blanchard was an ambitious officer with a promising future. He later rose to 4-star rank and became a senior Air Force leader. This success suggests the Roswell announcement did not permanently damage his career. Supporters find that remarkable. They argue that a careless officer who publicly misidentified a balloon should have faced serious consequences. Perhaps his superiors understood that he had followed accurate information before the story was suppressed. Skeptics point out that capable officers sometimes make mistakes without losing their careers. Blanchard may also have relied on reports from subordinates. His later silence offers no final answer. The mystery lies in his willingness to approve extraordinary language. A man responsible for atomic forces briefly told the world that his command had recovered a flying disc. Major Marcel transported selected wreckage through several military locations under tight security. After collecting material from the ranch, Jesse Marcel did not simply return it to a storage room. He traveled with the debris to Fort Worth, where senior command took control of the case. Some accounts suggest that selected material continued onward to additional military facilities. The route has become important because it implies the wreckage was considered valuable enough for rapid examination at higher levels. Supporters imagine a chain of custody leading toward laboratories capable of analyzing unknown technology. Skeptics see ordinary procedure for classified Project Mogul equipment. The exact cargo remains uncertain because no complete transport record has surfaced. Marcel later said he was prevented from speaking freely during the Fort Worth presentation. He also believed the material shown to reporters had been switched. If that is true, the real debris may already have been moving elsewhere, while public attention focused on harmless scraps. Roswell's evidence did not merely disappear. According to this interpretation, it traveled through a military system designed to move secrets without leaving an accessible trail. Fort Worth became the stage for the government's decisive Roswell explanation. The Roswell story changed character when it reached Fort Worth. Local officers had spoken of a captured disc. At the headquarters of the 8th Air Force, that claim was replaced by a weather balloon explanation. Reporters were invited into General Ramey's office and shown debris that looked harmless. Photographs were taken. Statements were issued. The mystery seemed finished before most Americans had time to understand it. Fort Worth mattered because it placed the case under senior command and national media attention. Whatever happened there shaped every later interpretation. Skeptics see a correction performed by experienced officers after a local mistake. Believers see a carefully managed presentation built to end public curiosity. The setting itself strengthened the news story. A general stood beside familiar materials, while lower-ranking officers accepted his explanation. No dramatic confrontation occurred. No evidence was publicly challenged. Roswell entered Fort Worth as an extraordinary event and left as an embarrassment. The speed of that transformation remains one of the clearest signs that powerful decisions were made behind closed doors. Brigadier General Thomas Dubose later disputed parts of the official press conference. Thomas Dubose served as Chief of Staff to General Ramey during the Roswell affair. Decades later, he said the weather balloon explanation had been created to divert public attention. He also recalled receiving instructions from higher authority to conceal the real nature of the material. His testimony seemed explosive because he had stood near the center of the Fort Worth response. Yet his accounts varied in detail. At times, he appeared to support the idea that debris had been substituted. Elsewhere, his statements were less direct. Critics argue that interviewers encouraged stronger conclusions than his memory justified. Supporters believe the basic message remained clear. The public display did not tell the whole truth. Dubose had no obvious reason to revive an old embarrassment late in life. Still, age and repeated questioning complicate his reliability. His testimony matters because it challenges the notion that Fort Worth simply corrected Roswell's mistake. A senior officer who helped manage the event later suggested that the explanation itself was part of the operation. Sheridan Cavett described a small balloon site that conflicted with Marcel's account. Counterintelligence officer Sheridan Cavett accompanied Jesse Marcel to the ranch. His later description differed sharply from Marcel's. Cavett remembered a small area with debris that looked like balloon material. He did not recall the vast field or exotic properties described by others. This contradiction places two trained officers at what appears to be the same scene, while giving them almost opposite experiences. Skeptics favor Cavett because his account matches Project Mogul. believers question why he initially denied being involved and why his memory appeared limited. Some suspect he understood the operation better than Marcel and deliberately protected its secrecy. Others think the men visited different sections of the ranch or examined different material. Cavit's role in counterintelligence adds another layer of suspicion. His profession involved controlling sensitive information and protecting military secrets. That does not prove deception, but it makes every statement feel strategic. Roswell's central witnesses do not merely disagree about interpretation. They disagree about the physical scale and nature of the site itself. Contradictory testimony left the original debris field almost impossible to reconstruct. No complete map of the Foster Ranch recovery was made available to the public. Later investigators had to rebuild the scene from memories gathered decades after the event. Those memories do not align. Some witnesses described a compact patch of balloon wreckage. Others remembered a long scar filled with unusual fragments. Estimates of width, length, direction, and quantity changed from one account to another. Even the date of discovery became disputed. This makes the debris field less like a fixed location and more like several overlapping versions of one place. Skeptics see the confusion as evidence that later storytelling distorted a minor event. Believers argue that military secrecy fragmented the witness pool and prevented anyone from seeing the entire operation. Different people may have visited different areas at different times. Weather could also have moved lightweight material before recovery teams arrived. Without photographs or survey records, no version can be confirmed. The original landscape held the most basic physical evidence in the case. Yet today, even its shape remains uncertain. Aerial searches may have located additional wreckage far beyond Brazel's discovery. Several accounts suggest military aircraft searched the countryside after the ranch debris was reported. Low-flying planes may have followed a possible trail leading away from the first site. If true, the search indicates authorities believed more material remained undiscovered. Supporters propose that the ranch field marked only the beginning of a much larger event. Fragments could have separated from a damaged vehicle before it traveled onward. Aircraft would then have been essential for tracing its path across remote terrain. Skeptics note that classified balloon equipment also required recovery. Sensitive instruments could have landed miles apart and posed a security concern. No verified flight log clearly documents an aerial hunt for alien wreckage. The claim survives through witnesses who remembered unusual activity overhead. Their recollections fit the theory of a second crash site without proving it. What makes the idea compelling is the geography. New Mexico's open land could hide wreckage from roads while remaining visible from the air. A search from above may have revealed something the ranch discovery did not explain. Archaeologists allegedly encountered a damaged craft resting against a desert embankment. One version of the Roswell story places a nearly intact object west of the ranch debris field. A group of archaeologists or field researchers allegedly reached the location before military forces sealed it off. They were said to have seen a metallic craft lodged near an embankment with small occupants nearby. The account entered the case through later testimony rather than contemporary documents. It offers a dramatic solution to the missing craft problem. The ranch held scattered material because the main vehicle had continued until it struck the desert elsewhere. Critics question whether the witnesses were correctly identified and whether their presence can be verified. Supporters argue that civilian professionals would have been especially dangerous to a cover-up because they could describe the site carefully. The military would therefore have needed to remove them quickly. No confirmed field notes or photographs have emerged. The archaeological connection remains one of Roswell's most cinematic claims. People trained to uncover the ancient past may have stumbled upon evidence of a technology that seemed to come from somewhere beyond Earth. Civil engineer Barney Barnett became linked to claims of small humanoid occupants. Barney Barnett worked for the federal government as a soil conservation engineer. According to friends, he once described encountering a crashed metallic object on the plains of San Agustin. He reportedly saw small bodies near the wreckage and watched military personnel take control of the area. Barnett never published the story himself. It became known after his death through people who said he had spoken privately. That weakens the evidence but does not erase its influence. His profession would have taken him through remote New Mexico landscapes where an unusual crash might remain hidden from the public. Supporters believe his account matches the idea of a second Roswell site. Critics note that the plains lie far from the Foster Ranch and may involve an entirely separate legend. Details also changed as the story passed between witnesses. Barnett's claim matters because it helped introduce bodies into Roswell research before many later accounts appeared. If he truly told the story years earlier, then the humanoid element was not simply borrowed from modern alien culture. Students conducting fieldwork may have witnessed soldiers securing an unfamiliar vehicle. Some versions of the plains of San Agustin story include a university field team working in the region. The group may have included students studying archaeology or geology. They allegedly reached the crash before military units arrived and saw a disc-shaped object with unusual occupants. Soldiers then ordered them away and warned them not to discuss the discovery. The identities of these students have never been firmly established. No class roster or field report has conclusively tied a university expedition to the site. That missing foundation makes the account highly uncertain. Yet the story persists because it introduces multiple independent witnesses who would have shared the same extraordinary scene. Supporters suggest the team was scattered, intimidated, or absorbed into separate lives before researchers began asking questions. Skeptics believe the students were added to strengthen a story that originally depended on one man. The possibility remains tantalizing. Somewhere, a forgotten university record may contain names connected to the most important alleged crash site in modern history. Gerald Anderson described a separate crash location near the plains of San Agustin. Gerald Anderson claimed that he visited the plains of San Agustin as a child with members of his family. There, he said they encountered a strange craft, small beings, and other civilians before the military arrived. His story gave remarkable detail to a location already associated with Barney Barnett. Anderson described the object as partially embedded in the ground and remembered one occupant appearing alive. Supporters believed his account could confirm a second Roswell recovery through an entirely different witness. Critics soon identified problems involving dates, family movements, and statements attributed to others. Anderson also produced a diary that some investigators considered suspicious. His defenders argued that minor errors were natural after so many years. The deeper importance of his claim lies in how it expanded Roswell beyond one ranch. If Anderson was accurate, the incident involved a major crash witnessed by civilians before military control began. If he was not, his story shows how easily an unresolved mystery can attract elaborate memories that become difficult to separate from fact. Critics found serious inconsistencies within Anderson's dramatic account of the recovery. Gerald Anderson's testimony initially seemed to support the plains of San Agustin crash. Closer investigation created major doubts. Researchers questioned whether his family could have been at the location when he claimed. Some people he named did not confirm his version. Details about the field team and military response shifted between interviews. A diary offered as supporting evidence also became controversial because its history was unclear. These problems led several Roswell investigators to reject him entirely. Yet Anderson continued defending the core of his memory. Supporters argued that a child could misremember names and timing while still recalling an extraordinary event. Critics answered that the disputed elements were too central to dismiss. The case became a warning about the danger of accepting dramatic testimony because it fits an attractive theory. Anderson's story may contain fragments of genuine experience. It may also be a constructed narrative strengthened through repetition. Roswell research depends heavily on human memory. His account shows how one unreliable witness can reshape an entire branch of the mystery. Some investigators believe competing crash stories reflect several unrelated secret operations. Roswell may appear contradictory because researchers have combined separate events into one enormous narrative. New Mexico hosted balloon experiments, rocket tests, aircraft development, and atomic work during the same period. Each program created unusual activity that local people could observe without understanding. A witness near Roswell might remember scattered debris. Another farther west might recall military vehicles surrounding a test object. Decades later, both memories could be joined under the Roswell name. This theory explains why locations, dates, and descriptions often refuse to fit together. It does not require every witness to be dishonest. They may have encountered different secrets that became linked through later interviews. Supporters of an extraterrestrial interpretation offer a bolder variation. Perhaps more than one unknown craft came down during the same regional event. The military then concealed each recovery under different programs. Roswell's confusion may therefore be evidence of mixture rather than error. The challenge is deciding whether the pieces belong to several human operations or several parts of something far stranger. Others suspect deliberate misinformation created false locations to protect the genuine site. A successful cover-up does not always require silence. It can work by producing too many stories. Roswell contains multiple crash sites spread across large areas of New Mexico. Each has witnesses, maps, and competing timelines. Some people believe this confusion was encouraged deliberately. Intelligence personnel could have promoted false locations so researchers would waste years arguing over places where nothing happened. Genuine witnesses might then appear unreliable because their accounts were surrounded by fabricated ones. This technique would protect the real recovery site without requiring every document to disappear. Skeptics note that no proof of such a program has surfaced. Conflicting stories can arise naturally through memory, publicity, and human imagination. Yet misinformation was a recognized tool of Cold War intelligence. Roswell's expanding geography would have been useful to anyone guarding a secret. The more sites entered the story, the less certain each one became. Under this theory, the false accounts are not distractions from the mystery. They are evidence that someone understood exactly how to keep the truth buried. Firefighter Dan. Dwyer allegedly entered a guarded area and saw unusual remains. Dan Dwyer served with the Roswell Fire Department and reportedly responded after hearing about a crash outside town. According to family accounts, he reached an area where military personnel had already established security. He allegedly saw wreckage and small bodies before being forced to leave. His story became known through relatives who said he had spoken privately about the experience. No fire department log has been found that confirms an official response. That absence is significant because emergency calls normally create records. Supporters suggest the military removed or suppressed them. Skeptics believe the story developed later from Roswell folklore. Dwyer's position makes the claim especially intriguing. Firefighters would be natural first responders to an unknown crash, and they might arrive before a military perimeter was complete. If he truly entered the site, he could have witnessed evidence that never reached official reports. The story also suggests civilian agencies were quickly excluded. Roswell may have shifted from local emergency to classified recovery within minutes of the first response. His daughter Frankie Rowe recalled a strange metallic fragment handled by her family. Frankie Rowe said her father brought home a small piece of material connected with the crash. She remembered it as thin and metallic, Yet unlike ordinary foil, the fragment could supposedly be crumpled and then returned to its original form. Her family handled it briefly before military personnel arrived and took it away. Rowe was a child at the time, which makes her memory both vivid and difficult to verify. Supporters see her account as independent confirmation of the unusual material described elsewhere. Critics argue that later interviews may have shaped her recollection. They also question whether a firefighter would have been allowed to leave a secured site carrying evidence. Rowe maintained that the experience stayed with her because the material behaved in a way she had never seen again. No sample survived. The object exists only through testimony. Yet her story brings the Roswell mystery into an ordinary family home. For a short time, something allegedly recovered from the desert may have passed through civilian hands before disappearing into military custody. The Rowe family claimed military officers demanded silence during a tense home visit. According to Frankie Rowe, military personnel came to her family's home after learning that they had handled unusual debris. The visitors allegedly recovered the fragment and delivered a severe warning. Rowe later said she was told that terrible consequences could follow if the family spoke. The encounter left a lasting impression because it transformed curiosity into fear. Supporters believe this was part of a wider effort to secure every piece of material and control every witness. Critics question whether such threats would have been made openly to a child. They suggest the memory may have grown more dramatic as Roswell became famous. The family, however, remained consistent in describing an atmosphere of intimidation. Their story differs from official secrecy surrounding classified equipment. It suggests personal pressure inside a private home. If the recovered material was only balloon foil, the response seems extreme. If it belonged to an unknown craft, the urgency becomes easier to understand. The alleged visit remains unproven, but it captures the human side of a possible cover-up. Roswell mortician Glenn Dennis reported requests for unusually small sealed caskets. Glenn Dennis worked at a Roswell funeral home that provided services to the nearby military base. He later claimed that an officer telephoned him with strange questions about obtaining several small caskets. The caller also asked about preserving bodies that had been exposed to desert conditions. Dennis found the request disturbing because no ordinary accident had been announced. He said he later visited the base hospital and noticed unusual activity before being ordered to leave. His testimony became central to claims that non-human bodies were recovered. Skeptics discovered problems in parts of his story and questioned why he waited decades to reveal it. They also noted that military personnel might ask hypothetical questions while preparing for an unrelated emergency. Supporters argue that the timing is too close to dismiss. Small caskets would fit the alleged size of Roswell's occupants. Dennis occupied a position where medical and military needs could briefly overlap. If his memory is accurate, the recovery operation was preparing not only to transport wreckage, but also to manage biological remains. Dennis also described questions concerning the preservation of bodies exposed to desert conditions. The telephone call described by Glenn Dennis went beyond the size of caskets. He said the officer wanted information about preventing tissue from decomposing after exposure to the desert. The questions involved chemical treatment and safe transport. That detail gave the story an unsettling medical realism. It suggested military planners faced remains unlike those from a routine local accident. Supporters believe the caller was seeking civilian expertise before specialists arrived. Skeptics argue that Dennis may have added technical elements after becoming involved with UFO investigators. They also point out that embalming questions could arise after an aircraft tragedy or training disaster. No record identifies the caller. Dennis never produced written notes from the conversation. Yet the inquiry fits a narrow moment when the base may have needed immediate guidance. If bodies were recovered from a remote crash, heat would quickly become a problem. The call therefore sounds practical rather than theatrical. Its mystery lies in the unknown emergency behind it. Someone at the base may have been preparing for remains that official history says never existed. An unidentified nurse allegedly witnessed a secret examination inside the base hospital. Glenn Dennis said a nurse he knew described an examination of strange bodies at Roswell Army Airfield. According to his account, she saw small figures with unusual heads, long arms, and unfamiliar hands. She appeared deeply shaken and later provided Dennis with a rough drawing. Soon afterward, she was allegedly transferred away from the base. Her identity became one of the most disputed elements in Roswell research. Dennis initially avoided naming her because he said he wanted to protect her. Later attempts to identify her produced conflicting names and records. Supporters believe the confusion resulted from military efforts to erase her trail. Critics suspect the nurse never existed. Without a confirmed service record, her extraordinary testimony depends entirely on Dennis. The story remains powerful because it places the mystery inside a medical setting where trained personnel could examine physical evidence. If genuine, the nurse may have been among the first humans to observe non-human anatomy closely. If invented, she became one of Roswell's most influential ghosts. Researchers later struggled to prove that the nurse ever served at Roswell. The nurse described by Glenn Dennis should have left an administrative trail. Military hospitals kept personnel records, transfer orders, and duty assignments. Investigators searched for women matching the names and descriptions he provided. None could be firmly confirmed as the witness in his story. At one point, Dennis supplied a name that appeared not to match any known Roswell nurse. Later explanations only deepened the uncertainty. Critics concluded that the missing nurse exposed the entire account as unreliable. Supporters offered several possibilities. Her name may have been altered, her records may have remained classified, or Dennis may have intentionally misidentified her to protect her family. Those explanations preserve the mystery, but make it harder to test. A real person should be traceable unless someone deliberately removed the evidence. An invented person can remain unreachable forever. The nurse therefore became a dividing line in Roswell research. Believing her requires trusting Dennis despite the record problem. Rejecting her means losing one of the most detailed alleged links to recovered bodies. Nurse Naomi Self became a disputed figure within the expanding autopsy legend. Naomi Self was one name associated with the mysterious nurse in later Roswell accounts. Researchers searched military records and nursing histories for proof that she worked at the base. The results were inconclusive and often negative. Some investigators believed the name was mistaken or deliberately altered. Others concluded that it had been created to prevent verification. The confusion damaged confidence in the hospital story because a specific name should have made confirmation easier. Instead, it opened another branch of uncertainty. Supporters argue that classified personnel could have served under records that are now missing or inaccessible. Critics reply that ordinary service documentation should still exist somewhere. The name also became tangled with claims of a transfer and an unexplained death. Those details could not be securely established. Naomi Self now occupies a strange place in Roswell history. She may have been a real nurse hidden behind incomplete records. She may have been someone whose identity was misremembered. She may also have been a fictional shield protecting a story that could not survive direct investigation. Medical personnel may have been transferred quickly after encountering classified biological material. Several Roswell stories suggest that people connected with the base hospital disappeared from local view soon after the incident. Transfers would have offered a simple way to break up a witness group. Doctors, nurses, and technicians could be reassigned under ordinary military orders without attracting public attention. Once scattered across distant bases, they would have little opportunity to compare memories or speak collectively. Supporters believe this may explain why no medical team came forward together. Skeptics note that military personnel were transferred frequently during the post-war period. Staff movement alone does not prove an extraordinary examination took place. No verified order has been shown to connect a transfer directly with Roswell. Still, the method would have been effective. Biological evidence would likely receive tighter control than metal wreckage because it carried scientific and political consequences. The people who handled it could become security risks. Roswell's hospital claims remain fragmented into isolated memories. That fragmentation may reflect ordinary record failure. It may also be exactly what a controlled dispersal of witnesses was designed to create. Hospital records that could clarify these claims have never resolved the controversy. If bodies reached the Roswell Base Hospital, some form of documentation might be expected. They could have been duty rosters, supply requests, admission notes, cleaning records, or unusual security orders. Yet no confirmed hospital file has emerged that proves an examination occurred. Supporters believe sensitive records were removed immediately and stored under a classification system separate from normal medical administration. Critics see the absence as strong evidence that the story was invented. The difficulty is that military hospitals also generated ordinary paperwork that may not have survived for decades. Missing records do not automatically reveal deliberate destruction. At the same time, the lack of even indirect traces remains striking, given the scale of the alleged event. Researchers have searched personnel lists and archival collections without finding a decisive answer. Roswell's medical mystery therefore rests in a documentary silence. That silence can be interpreted in two opposite ways. Nothing was recorded because nothing extraordinary happened. Or everything important was removed because the event was considered too extraordinary to enter any normal file. Walter Haut issued the original announcement and remained central to the mystery. Walter Haut served as the public information officer at Roswell Army Airfield. On July 8, 1947, he delivered the statement that announced the recovery of a flying disc. He later said Colonel William Blanchard gave him the wording and ordered its release. That placed Haut at the exact moment when an internal military event became worldwide news. For many years, he described his role cautiously and avoided dramatic claims. He seemed to support the view that he had simply followed instructions. Over time, however, his position appeared to become less certain. He helped establish the International UFO Museum in Roswell and remained connected with investigators until his death. Critics believe years of exposure to the legend may have influenced his later memories. Supporters argue that his growing openness reflected a gradual release from secrecy. Haut never claimed to understand the entire operation, yet he knew where the original announcement came from. His changing testimony suggests that the man who introduced Roswell to the world may have known more than he first admitted. Haut's disputed final statement described a craft and bodies inside a military hangar. A signed statement attributed to Walter Haut was released after his death. It contained claims far more extraordinary than anything he had publicly confirmed while alive. Haut said he attended a senior briefing where officers discussed separate debris and crash locations. He also described seeing an egg-shaped craft inside a base hangar. Nearby, he claimed, were several covered bodies that appeared unusually small. If authentic and accurate, the statement would place the author of the original press release beside direct physical evidence. Critics question how the document was prepared and whether Haut fully understood what he signed. His public interviews had often been more restrained. Supporters answer that the statement was meant to remain sealed until after his death because he feared breaking his oath. The timing protects him from questioning, which makes the account impossible to test. It also creates the possibility that he finally revealed what secrecy had hidden for decades. Roswell's official messenger may have left his most important message only when he could no longer defend it. That statement was released after his death and immediately divided Roswell researchers. The posthumous release created a difficult problem for everyone studying Roswell. A living witness can be questioned about wording, memory, and outside influence. A dead witness cannot explain contradictions or clarify what was meant. Some investigators accepted the document as Haut's final confession. They believed he had waited until death to avoid legal or personal consequences. Others saw it as an unreliable text shaped by people already committed to the alien interpretation. Questions arose about when it was written, who helped prepare it, and why its dramatic claims had not appeared clearly in earlier interviews. The statement also contained details that matched stories circulating for years. That could mean Haut was finally confirming them. It could also mean those stories had entered his memory. The debate became less about handwriting and more about trust. Was this a guarded man releasing a burden at the end of life, or an elderly witness signing a narrative he could no longer evaluate fully? The document remains powerful because it offers apparent certainty while removing every chance for follow-up. Lieutenant Colonel Philip Corso claimed recovered alien technology entered secret military research. Philip Corso served in the United States Army and later published an extraordinary account of his involvement with Roswell material. He claimed that fragments from the crash were quietly distributed to private industry and military laboratories. According to Corso, the goal was not to announce an alien discovery. It was to study useful components without revealing their origin. He described a system in which companies believed they were receiving foreign technology or experimental material. This approach would allow breakthroughs to appear through ordinary research programs. Corso's military background gave the story immediate appeal. Critics found serious problems with his timeline and questioned whether his assignments gave him access to such evidence. They also noted that he offered no verifiable sample. Supporters argued that a compartmented operation would leave exactly that kind of uncertainty. Corso transformed Roswell from a hidden crash into a secret technology transfer program. Under his theory, the wreckage did not remain locked away. It quietly entered modern life while the public continued debating whether it existed. Corso connected Roswell materials with advances in electronics and advanced night vision. Corso claimed that several major technologies were accelerated by studying components recovered from the crash. He linked the material with miniaturized electronics and image intensification used for seeing in darkness. He also associated it with unusual fibers and directed energy research. The idea is fascinating because the decades after Roswell produced rapid technological change. Devices that once filled rooms became small enough to carry. Military forces gained the ability to operate after sunset with remarkable clarity. Supporters believe those advances arrived too quickly to be entirely human. Critics point out that each technology has a documented history involving known researchers and earlier experiments. They argue that Corso attached an alien origin to inventions after they were already famous. Yet the theory does not require scientists to know what they were studying. A recovered component could have inspired a new direction without being copied exactly. Roswell may therefore have influenced invention through suggestion rather than direct duplication. The mystery lies in whether progress followed human momentum alone or received an unexpected push from something recovered in the desert. Scientists reject those connections because the technologies have documented human development histories. The inventions linked with Roswell did not appear without warning. Transistors grew from decades of research into semiconductors. Night vision developed through wartime experiments with infrared light and electronic amplification. Strong synthetic fibers emerged from established work in chemistry. These histories include named inventors, laboratories, patents, and earlier prototypes. That record gives critics a powerful reason to reject alien influence. They argue that adding Roswell removes credit from people whose work can be traced step by step. Supporters respond that official histories show only the public path. A classified object might have guided researchers toward solutions without entering patent records. The recovered technology could have acted as a target rather than a blueprint. Scientists might have spent years recreating an effect they had observed but did not understand. There is no confirmed evidence that this occurred. Yet secrecy makes the claim difficult to disprove completely. The disagreement reveals a wider Roswell question. Can a hidden influence exist inside a well-documented history? Or does a clear human trail make outside intervention unnecessary? Supporters argue that official histories could conceal unexpected breakthroughs from recovered materials. A classified research program would not describe its source honestly in public records. Engineers might receive a strange component and be told it came from an enemy aircraft. Contractors could study unusual properties without learning where the sample was found. Later, patents would name the people who solved the problem rather than the object that inspired them. This creates a theory in which documented human invention and recovered technology can both be true. The scientists still perform the work, but someone else quietly chooses the direction. Supporters believe this explains why certain advances seem to accelerate during the Cold War. Critics answer that rapid progress often follows major investment and competition. They see no need for an extraterrestrial catalyst. The hidden influence theory survives because classified research already works through compartmentalization. Few participants understand the whole project. Roswell material could have moved through that system without ever being labeled alien. If so, the greatest secret would not be that foreign technology replaced human creativity. It would be that human creativity was quietly challenged by an impossible example. Wright Field became the alleged destination for Roswell's most sensitive cargo. Wright Field in Ohio housed some of America's most advanced aeronautical research. It was the place where captured enemy aircraft and unfamiliar technology could be examined by specialists. That made it a logical destination for anything recovered at Roswell. Several accounts claim that sealed crates containing wreckage were flown there under armed guard. Later versions added biological remains and a damaged craft. The facility's real work with foreign equipment made those stories seem plausible. If military leaders found something beyond known technology, Wright Field had the expertise and security to begin studying it. Skeptics note that no verified shipping record identifies alien cargo. They also point out that classified balloon equipment could have been sent for routine analysis. Supporters believe the absence of ordinary records is exactly what such a shipment would require. Wright Field eventually became Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and remained linked with UFO rumors for decades. Roswell may have ended in New Mexico for the public. Behind closed doors, the investigation may only have begun after the evidence reached Ohio. Hangar 18 entered UFO folklore as the hiding place for recovered spacecraft. For decades, stories have claimed that alien wreckage was stored inside a secure building at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. The location became known as Hangar 18, although its exact identity has always been uncertain. Some accounts describe a warehouse containing bodies and pieces from several crashes. Others imagine an intact craft hidden behind restricted doors. The legend grew through rumors from former military personnel, anonymous sources, books, and popular films. No reliable public document confirms that a building with this role existed. Base officials have denied the story. Yet the idea remains difficult to erase because Wright-Patterson genuinely handled classified aerospace material. Restricted hangars were real, even if alien storage was not. Supporters believe the famous name may be deliberately inaccurate to draw attention away from the true facility. Skeptics see a perfect example of folklore attaching itself to an environment of secrecy. Hangar 18 may be fictional. It may also be a public label for a hidden program whose real address was never spoken. No verified document has confirmed that such alien storage ever existed there. The Hangar 18 legend has produced countless claims, but no decisive paperwork. Researchers have searched military files, building plans, personnel records, and archival collections. They have found evidence of classified work at Wright-Patterson, but nothing that openly identifies recovered extraterrestrial material. That absence matters because major facilities generate enormous amounts of administration. Objects must be catalogued, guarded, moved, maintained, and studied. Supporters believe an alien program would use a separate record system known only to a small group. Code names could hide the cargo inside ordinary aerospace projects. Sensitive files might also have been destroyed or retained beyond normal classification periods. Critics argue that this explanation makes the theory impossible to test. Any missing evidence becomes proof of secrecy. Any ordinary document becomes possible camouflage. The result is a mystery built around institutional silence. Wright-Patterson certainly held things the public could not see. The unresolved question is whether those hidden objects were advanced human machines, captured foreign equipment, or evidence that never belonged to any nation on Earth. A heavily guarded aircraft may have carried Roswell wreckage to Ohio for examination. Witnesses connected with military aviation later described unusual flights leaving the region after the incident. One account involves a transport aircraft carrying sealed containers under security far beyond normal cargo procedures. Armed guards reportedly watched the shipment while crew members were kept away from its contents. The flight path was said to lead toward Ohio. Such precautions could fit sensitive intelligence equipment, but supporters believe the secrecy suggests something much greater. A recovered craft would need to reach specialists quickly before contamination or damage destroyed useful evidence. Air transport would also keep the material away from civilian roads and local observation. No confirmed manifest has surfaced that names the cargo. Military records from the period are incomplete, and classified shipments often used vague descriptions. Critics argue that later witnesses may have attached Roswell meaning to an unrelated mission. Yet the possibility remains compelling. While reporters photographed balloon scraps in Fort Worth, the real evidence may already have been moving east inside an aircraft whose crew was never told what it carried. Flight crews later described mysterious crates transported under unusually strict orders. Stories from airmen added another layer to the movement of Roswell evidence. Some recalled crates that were sealed, guarded, and loaded with unusual care. Crew members allegedly received instructions not to ask questions or approach the cargo. In certain versions, the containers were small enough to hold bodies. In others, they carried selected pieces of a larger object. These details appeared years later and often came through second-hand testimony. That makes them difficult to verify. Strict security was also common when transporting weapons or intelligence equipment. Still, the reports fit the idea of a recovery operation spreading across several bases. The crates allowed sensitive material to become ordinary military freight, while remaining inaccessible to everyone nearby. Supporters argue that only a few officers needed to know the truth. Pilots and loaders could perform their tasks without understanding the mission. Roswell's most important evidence may therefore have passed within feet of many people who saw only containers. The mystery would survive because the packaging concealed more than the object. It concealed the meaning of the journey. Some accounts place recovered material at Andrews Field before its final destination. Not every alleged Roswell shipment traveled directly to Ohio. Several stories suggest that material passed through Andrews Field near Washington before continuing elsewhere. Andrews had close connections with senior military leadership and the federal government. A stop there could have allowed officials to inspect the cargo or receive an immediate briefing. Supporters imagine wreckage being shown to a small circle of decision-makers before technical analysis began. Critics point out that Andrews was a major transport hub. A flight passing through it would not be unusual. No verified record proves that Roswell evidence arrived there. Yet the location adds a political dimension to the recovery. If unknown technology reached the capital region, the incident would have moved quickly beyond local command. Decisions about secrecy could then have involved the highest levels of government. The stop may be only a later addition to the legend. It may also explain how national authorities gained control so rapidly. Roswell could have become a Washington matter before most newspapers printed their first edition. The Pentagon may have received immediate reports that remain undiscovered or classified. An event involving unknown wreckage near an atomic base would almost certainly trigger communication with senior military headquarters. Messages could have traveled by secure telephone, coded teletype, or classified courier. Yet no complete chain of reports has entered the public record. Researchers have found fragments of surrounding activity, but not the decisive message explaining what commanders believed they had recovered. Supporters see this absence as evidence that the most important documents remain hidden. Critics argue that routine records may have been discarded long ago. The Pentagon also handled countless alerts during the tense early Cold War. Roswell might have produced paperwork that looked unremarkable without its attachments. A single missing report could answer whether officials feared a Soviet device, a secret American program, or something entirely unknown. The lack of such a document leaves the command response invisible. We know the public story changed quickly. We do not know what information caused that change. Somewhere inside the military system, someone may have written the clearest account of Roswell. That account has never surfaced. President Harry Truman was allegedly briefed within hours of the recovery operation. Several theories place President Harry Truman at the top of the Roswell chain of command. As Commander-in-Chief, he would have needed to know if an unknown craft had entered American territory near atomic forces. Some accounts claim that a secure briefing reached him soon after the recovery. Others suggest that photographs or selected wreckage were presented later. No confirmed presidential diary entry mentions an alien crash. Truman's official schedule offers no clear proof of an emergency meeting. Supporters argue that an event of this magnitude would never appear in ordinary records. The briefing might have occurred through a small intelligence circle using verbal reports. Critics note that linking a president to a mystery often makes the story seem more important without adding evidence. Even so, Truman had already overseen the use of atomic weapons and the creation of new national security institutions. He understood secrets of historic scale. If Roswell involved something beyond human technology, the decision to conceal it may have begun with the president himself. Truman's unexplained New Mexico travel rumors continued to attract speculative investigation. Rumors have long claimed that Truman traveled secretly to New Mexico after the incident. Some versions place him near Roswell. Others connect him with a military installation where wreckage or bodies were being examined. Official records do not confirm such a journey. Presidential movement required staff, security, aircraft, and extensive coordination, which makes a completely hidden visit difficult to imagine. Supporters suggest the trip may have been disguised within another schedule or handled through military channels. Critics see the story as an attempt to place the highest possible authority at the scene. The rumor persists because a direct presidential inspection would fit the extraordinary stakes imagined by believers. Truman would not need to understand the technology. He would only need to decide who controlled the information. No photograph or trustworthy eyewitness has settled the question. The possible visit remains one of Roswell's most ambitious claims. If it happened, the recovery was treated as a national emergency. If it did not, the legend still reveals how large the mystery became in public imagination. Secretary James Forrestal became associated with claims of a secret crash retrieval group. James Forrestal served as the first United States Secretary of Defense. His position placed him at the center of military reorganization and early Cold War planning. Later UFO accounts claimed that Forrestal helped oversee a hidden group responsible for recovered craft. The organization was sometimes linked with Majestic 12. Supporters believe Forrestal's access to intelligence made him a natural member. Critics note that the evidence comes mainly from disputed documents and later testimony. Forrestal was already burdened by enormous pressure and political conflict. Adding extraterrestrial secrecy creates a dramatic explanation for his troubled final years. Yet no verified record shows him discussing Roswell or alien technology. His connection survives because he occupied exactly the kind of office that would handle an unprecedented discovery. If a crash retrieval program existed, the Secretary of Defense would likely know. Forrestal therefore stands at the boundary between documented power and speculative knowledge. His real responsibilities were immense. The mystery asks whether one hidden responsibility became more dangerous than all the others. His later death fueled theories concerning knowledge of forbidden extraterrestrial secrets. Forrestal died in May of 1949 after falling from a window at Bethesda Naval Hospital. He had been receiving treatment following a severe mental health crisis. The official conclusion was suicide, although uncertainty surrounding the investigation encouraged alternative theories. Some people believe he was silenced because he intended to reveal information about Roswell or a secret UFO program. They point to his national security role and alleged connection with Majestic 12. Critics argue that the theory ignores extensive evidence of his declining health. They also note that no reliable document shows he planned disclosure. The circumstances of his death remain disturbing enough to invite speculation. In a culture shaped by secrecy, any unexpected death near powerful institutions can appear suspicious. Forrestal's tragedy became woven into Roswell because it offered a possible human cost for forbidden knowledge. Perhaps he knew nothing about alien craft. Perhaps he carried secrets unrelated to UFOs. Yet for believers, his fall marked the moment when the hidden program proved it would protect itself. The Majestic 12 documents describe an elite committee created after Roswell. In the 1980s, documents surfaced describing a secret group called Majestic 12. The papers claimed President Truman created the committee to manage recovered alien technology and biological remains. Its members allegedly included senior military officers, intelligence leaders, and prominent scientists. The names were carefully chosen to match people with genuine access to national secrets. This made the documents feel disturbingly plausible. They also described a briefing prepared for President Eisenhower, which suggested the program survived across administrations. Supporters saw the papers as the missing structure behind Roswell. Critics identified formatting problems, suspicious language, and historical details that appeared copied from known sources. No confirmed archive has produced an original Majestic Order. Yet the idea transformed the mystery. Roswell no longer looked like an isolated cover-up. It became the founding event of a permanent secret government. Whether genuine or fabricated, the documents provided a complete hidden history. Their greatest power lies in how neatly they explain every missing record, every controlled witness, and every decision made beyond public oversight. Government examiners identified suspicious details that suggested those documents were fabricated. Investigators studying the Majestic papers found several warning signs. Typewriter characteristics appeared inconsistent with the claimed period. Some phrases did not match government usage. A date format and signature placement raised further doubts. One memorandum seemed to reproduce language from an unrelated letter. Critics concluded that the documents were carefully assembled using genuine historical material. The goal may have been to create a forgery strong enough to survive casual inspection. Supporters challenged many of these objections. They argued that classified documents did not always follow standard formats. Copies could also introduce visual irregularities. The debate became highly technical, but the larger question remained simple. Who created the papers, and why? A hoaxer may have wanted attention or money. An intelligence source may have planted false evidence to confuse researchers. A genuine insider may have mixed truth with deliberate errors to protect identity. The documents look suspicious enough to doubt, yet sophisticated enough to provoke decades of argument. Their possible falsity does not end the mystery. It creates another one. Believers argue that convincing flaws could have been planted to encourage dismissal. A perfect secret document would attract intense government attention. A flawed one could circulate publicly while remaining easy to reject. This idea has become central to the defense of Majestic 12. Supporters suggest that authentic information was deliberately mixed with obvious errors. Investigators would expose the flaws and dismiss the entire package, while the genuine core remained hidden in plain sight. Intelligence agencies have used contaminated information before to protect sources and confuse adversaries. Critics answer that this reasoning makes every mistake useful to the theory. Bad evidence becomes proof of sophisticated deception. That creates a claim that cannot be disproved. Yet Roswell has always occupied a world where misinformation is possible. A planted flaw might include the wrong typeface, an unusual date, or a copied phrase. Each would attract skeptical attention without revealing who inserted it. The documents may therefore be false, partly true, or designed to blur that distinction forever. Their imperfections could expose a hoax. They could also be the mechanism that allowed a real secret to survive public examination. An anonymous film roll delivered the Majestic papers without revealing its sender. The first major Majestic material arrived through an unusual route. Researcher Jaime Chandra received a package containing undeveloped film. There was no clear explanation of who had sent it. When processed, the images showed documents describing the secret committee and its connection with Roswell. The anonymous delivery gave the papers an immediate aura of intelligence tradecraft. A genuine source might have feared exposure. A hoaxer might have used secrecy to make the material seem important. The film also prevented direct examination of the original paper and ink. Researchers could study only photographic images, which limited forensic testing. Supporters believe the sender may have been an insider who chose the safest possible method. Critics suspect someone within the UFO community created the package. No identity has ever been confirmed. The delivery itself became part of the evidence because it looked like a leak from a hidden world. Yet anonymity protects truth and deception equally well. The person who mailed the film may have held one of Roswell's greatest secrets. Or that person may have created it. Roswell researchers have long suspected intelligence agencies secretly manipulated the UFO community. The UFO field offered intelligence agencies a useful environment. People collected rumors about secret aircraft, military bases, radar systems, and unexplained sightings. Foreign governments could listen to the same conversations. By monitoring researchers, officials might discover leaks from classified programs. They could also redirect attention by feeding false stories into trusted networks. Roswell became especially vulnerable because its evidence was incomplete and its witnesses were scattered. A convincing insider could reshape the entire case with one document or dramatic claim. Some investigators believe this happened repeatedly. Genuine information may have been mixed with obvious fantasy until outsiders could no longer tell them apart. Critics caution that blaming intelligence agencies can excuse weak research. not every contradiction requires a hidden operation. Still, documented counterintelligence activity around UFO enthusiasts makes the concern reasonable. Roswell may not have been concealed only through silence. It may have been surrounded by stories designed to compete with the truth. In that environment, the most accurate witness could sound no more reliable than the most imaginative storyteller. Researcher William Moore admitted spreading disinformation while cooperating with government contacts. William Moore helped revive public interest in Roswell through early investigations and influential writing. He later revealed that he had cooperated with people claiming intelligence connections. As part of that relationship, he admitted passing misleading information to another UFO researcher. Moore said he hoped the cooperation would lead him toward deeper secrets. Instead, his confession damaged trust across the field. If a respected investigator could become part of a disinformation effort, no source seemed entirely safe. Supporters of Moore believed he had entered a dangerous game and learned how the government controlled UFO narratives. Critics saw unethical behavior that harmed vulnerable people. His admission did not prove Roswell involved aliens. It proved that information surrounding the subject could be manipulated deliberately. That changed the meaning of later evidence. Anonymous letters, secret contacts, and leaked documents could no longer be accepted at face value. Moore's story suggests that researchers searching for truth may also become tools within the mystery. The investigator can be watched, tested, rewarded, and quietly used. That confession raised fears that Roswell's evidence had been deliberately contaminated. Once deliberate disinformation entered the Roswell story, every major claim became harder to judge. False witnesses could be introduced beside genuine ones. Forged documents might repeat accurate details, so that exposing the forgery discredited the truth as well. Investigators could be encouraged to promote weak stories that later collapsed in public. This process is known as contamination because reliable evidence becomes inseparable from material designed to fail. Supporters believe Roswell contains exactly this pattern. Some of its most dramatic claims appeared suddenly, gained attention, and then developed fatal problems. Critics argue that ordinary hoaxes and poor research can create the same result without government involvement. Yet deliberate contamination would offer a powerful defense for any real secret. Authorities would not need to suppress every discussion. They would only need to ensure that outsiders could never build a stable case. Roswell's contradictions may therefore be more than historical noise. They may be the product of a strategy. The mystery survives not because evidence is absent, but because too much uncertain evidence surrounds it. Paul Bennewitz became a warning about the human cost of manufactured UFO stories. Paul Bennewitz was a businessman who believed he had detected alien activity near Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico. In reality, he may have observed signals connected with classified military programs. Government-linked individuals reportedly encouraged his extraterrestrial interpretation and supplied him with false information. Bennewitz became convinced that underground alien bases and hostile operations were real. His mental health deteriorated as the story consumed him. The case is documented well enough to show that UFO beliefs could be manipulated for security purposes. Roswell researchers study Bennewitz because his experience reveals how a false narrative can be built around genuine observations. Officials did not need to invent everything. They only needed to guide him toward the wrong explanation. Supporters wonder whether similar methods were used after Roswell. Witnesses might have seen real, classified activity while being surrounded by stories that made them appear irrational. Bennewitz's tragedy reminds us that misinformation is not an abstract game. It can damage lives while protecting secrets that have nothing to do with visitors from another world. Secret aircraft testing near New Mexico may have generated useful alien cover stories. New Mexico became one of America's most important testing grounds for advanced aviation. Unusual aircraft could fly across isolated regions with little public warning. Their shapes, speeds, and lighting might appear impossible to observers unfamiliar with classified design. An alien explanation could therefore serve military interests. It would draw attention away from engineering details and make witnesses easier to dismiss. Roswell occurred before famous stealth aircraft existed, but experimentation with unconventional vehicles was already underway. Supporters of the extraterrestrial theory turn this argument around. They suggest secret aircraft stories may have been used to explain sightings of genuinely unknown craft. Both possibilities rely on the same landscape of restricted airspace and hidden development. The public saw fragments without knowing which program produced them. A strange object might be American, foreign, or something beyond either category. Military secrecy ensured that officials rarely clarified the difference. Roswell may have become an alien legend because that legend was useful. The difficult question is whether it concealed a human project or something even more sensitive. Roswell's location placed it near laboratories developing America's most guarded military technology. The wider region surrounding Roswell was filled with extraordinary scientific activity. Los Alamos had created the first atomic weapons. White Sands supported missile and rocket testing. Military bases across New Mexico handled projects hidden from the public. This concentration of secret work makes the incident both easier and harder to explain. A classified human program could account for strange debris and urgent security. At the same time, any unknown craft appearing there would have entered one of the most strategically important areas in the world. Some people speculate that advanced visitors might have been drawn to atomic development. They point to later UFO reports near nuclear facilities as part of the same pattern. Critics see coincidence created by the number of military observers in such places. Roswell's geography, therefore, supports competing stories. It was the perfect location for an experimental accident. It was also the perfect location for an encounter connected with humanity's newest destructive power. Whatever happened, it occurred inside a landscape where extraordinary technology was already changing history. White Sands tested unusual rockets that could easily inspire reports of strange craft. White Sands Proving Ground became a center for rocket development after the Second World War. Engineers launched captured German VTU rockets and studied technologies that most civilians had never seen. A failed test could scatter unfamiliar metal across the desert or produce sightings of objects moving in unexpected ways. This has led some investigators to connect Roswell with a rocket accident rather than a balloon or alien vehicle. The timing and distance remain problematic, and no confirmed launch has been matched directly with the ranch debris. Still, White Sands shows how advanced the region had become. People living nearby could witness pieces of the future without receiving any explanation. Supporters of an alien interpretation argue that rockets do not match reports of flexible metal or small bodies. Skeptics reply that separate stories may have merged over time. Experimental hardware, test dummies, and military recovery teams could form a powerful false memory when viewed decades later. Roswell's desert was not empty. It was an outdoor laboratory where objects once considered impossible were already leaving the ground. German scientists brought through Operation Paperclip were working elsewhere in New Mexico. After the Second World War, the United States brought German rocket experts into its military research system through Operation Paperclip. Several worked at Fort Bliss and White Sands, where they helped test captured VTU technology. Their presence added another secretive layer to New Mexico's post-war landscape. Some people believe unusual craft described around Roswell may have involved designs derived from German experiments. Wartime engineers had explored swept wings, guided weapons, and unconventional aircraft concepts. Supporters imagine that more advanced projects were captured than official histories admit. Critics note that no documented German design matches the extraordinary Roswell claims. The known paperclip teams were focused mainly on rockets rather than silent disks. Yet the program proves that hidden technology and former enemy scientists were operating in the region. A civilian discovering unfamiliar wreckage might easily assume it came from another world. An alien explanation could also protect the politically sensitive truth that German expertise was being used by America. Roswell may sit at the point where secret history became almost indistinguishable from science fiction. Some theorists connect Roswell with experimental vehicles based on captured German designs. After the Second World War, American forces recovered aircraft plans that explored shapes far removed from conventional bombers. Some German engineers had studied circular wings, vertical takeoff systems, and other unusual concepts. This has encouraged speculation that Roswell involved an experimental vehicle built from captured research. Such a craft might have looked astonishing to anyone who found its wreckage. Its true origin would also have been deeply embarrassing because the program could involve former enemy scientists working in secret. Critics argue that no verified German design could perform like the craft later described by Roswell witnesses. Most wartime concepts remained incomplete or technically impractical. Supporters answer that the most advanced files may never have entered public archives. They imagine an American prototype failing during a classified test over New Mexico. The military would then need to recover every fragment before foreign intelligence learned what had been achieved. Under this theory, the flying disc was real. It simply belonged to a hidden chapter of human engineering rather than visitors from another world. Another controversial theory blames a failed Soviet psychological warfare operation. A very different explanation places the Soviet Union behind the Roswell incident. According to this idea, Soviet intelligence created an unusual aircraft and sent it toward the United States to provoke fear. The mission may have been designed to imitate the flying saucer reports spreading through American newspapers. If the vehicle crashed, military leaders would face an impossible choice. Revealing it could cause panic and expose weaknesses in national defense. Concealing it would create unanswered questions for decades. Some versions of the theory involve technology captured from Germany and modified for psychological warfare. Critics find the plan extraordinarily risky and unsupported by reliable evidence. A vehicle capable of crossing such distance would have been a major achievement in its own right. Supporters argue that the Cold War encouraged operations that seemed almost unbelievable. The Soviet goal may not have been military victory. It may have been confusion. Roswell would then represent a hostile experiment in fear, created to make Americans doubt their government and question what could enter their skies. That theory proposes a staged crash intended to trigger nationwide American panic. The staged crash idea suggests that the wreckage was meant to be discovered. Rather than striking a military target, the operation may have aimed at the American imagination. A strange vehicle appearing near an atomic base could create rumors of invasion and expose how quickly public confidence might collapse. The timing would have been ideal. Flying saucer stories had already captured national attention. One dramatic recovery could push curiosity into fear. Supporters believe the Soviet Union understood the value of psychological disruption after years of wartime propaganda. Critics note that a staged event would require remarkable planning and technology. It would also risk giving valuable equipment to the United States. No Soviet record has confirmed such a mission. Yet the theory explains why the object might appear deliberately strange rather than militarily useful. Its purpose would be the story it created. Roswell certainly became a lasting source of suspicion toward official authority. If that effect was intentional, the operation succeeded far beyond anything its designers could have expected. No reliable evidence has established the extraordinary Soviet operation described by supporters. The Soviet crash theory depends on several claims that remain unsupported. No confirmed intelligence file describes the mission. No recovered component has been traced to Soviet manufacture. No participant has produced a verifiable confession. The theory also asks us to believe that an experimental craft crossed American territory without detection before failing near Roswell. Critics therefore see it as an imaginative attempt to replace one extraordinary explanation with another. Supporters respond that secret operations rarely leave obvious records for foreign investigators. Soviet archives also remain incomplete in areas involving intelligence work. Even so, the absence of direct evidence is difficult to ignore. A theory becomes more convincing when it explains facts that simpler ideas cannot. Here, the proposed operation adds new mysteries involving launch sites, pilots, construction, and control. Roswell may still have involved foreign technology, but the Soviet scenario has not moved beyond speculation. Its value lies in reminding us that the early Cold War produced deception on a scale that ordinary citizens were never meant to understand. Japanese balloon weapons had already demonstrated how strange objects could cross oceans. Only a few years before Roswell, Japan launched thousands of balloon weapons toward North America. High-altitude winds carried them across the Pacific with no crew and very little guidance. Most caused limited damage, but the program proved that distant enemies could place mysterious objects over American territory. Many citizens never learned the full story because wartime censorship restricted reporting. This hidden history shaped how military officials viewed unidentified debris after the war. An unfamiliar balloon might not be harmless. It could carry instruments, explosives, or surveillance equipment. Roswell therefore occurred in a world where strange objects from overseas were already real. Supporters of the conventional explanation believe this helps explain the urgent recovery response. Critics argue that trained officers would have recognized the basic construction of such devices. The Japanese balloon campaign does not solve Roswell. It shows why authorities may have reacted strongly before knowing what they had found. The object in the desert could have represented a new version of a threat America had previously kept secret. Military officials feared that unidentified debris might represent a new foreign weapon. The first concern at Roswell may have been national security rather than extraterrestrial contact. In 1947, military planners knew the Soviet Union was rapidly developing new weapons. An unknown device near an atomic base could represent surveillance, sabotage, or an unexpected delivery system. Officers would need to secure the area before making any public statement. That urgency could explain guarded transport and rapid involvement from senior command. It could also explain why the original announcement used broad language while specialists examined the material. Supporters of the alien theory argue that foreign equipment would still have been easier to describe than a flying disc. Skeptics answer that the term was already being used loosely for unidentified aerial objects. The military may not have known whether the wreckage belonged to a balloon, aircraft, or experimental weapon. Roswell's mystery grew because uncertainty itself was classified. Officials could not reveal what they feared without exposing what America knew. The public received a simple answer, while military planners considered possibilities that were far more serious. Early flying saucer reports created intense pressure to classify unfamiliar objects quickly. During the summer of 1947, reports of flying discs appeared across the United States. Newspapers treated the subject with excitement, while military officials faced a practical problem. Every new sighting might be a mistake, a secret aircraft, or a foreign device. Investigating them publicly could expose defense capabilities. Ignoring them could allow a genuine threat to pass unnoticed. Roswell occurred at the height of this confusion. The base announcement may have reflected the language of the moment rather than a conclusion about alien visitors. Once the story spread nationally, senior officers had strong reasons to close it quickly. Supporters believe the sudden pressure caused the military to reveal more than intended. Critics think it caused local officers to overreact. Both interpretations depend on the same historical atmosphere. The country was learning a new phrase before anyone agreed on what it meant. Roswell became famous because the military used that phrase officially. One brief statement turned a vague public fascination into a claim of physical recovery. Kenneth Arnold's sighting had transformed public interest only weeks before Roswell. On June 24, 1947, pilot Kenneth Arnold reported seeing 9 unusual objects near Mount Rainier. He described their motion in a way that newspapers transformed into the phrase "flying saucers." The story spread rapidly and inspired reports from across the country. Less than 2 weeks later, Roswell entered the news. That timing matters because everyone involved already knew the public was fascinated by mysterious disks. A rancher finding strange debris might connect it with the new reports. A military public information officer might use the same language because it was immediately understood. Supporters of the alien theory see something more meaningful. Arnold's sighting may have marked a genuine increase in unknown activity that included Roswell. Critics view the sequence as social influence. Once people heard about saucers, ordinary objects became easier to interpret through that idea. Roswell stands close to the beginning of the modern UFO era. It may have been inspired by the first great sighting, or it may have confirmed that Arnold had witnessed part of a larger event. Newspapers were already competing for extraordinary stories about mysterious disks in the sky. The American press played a major role in creating the atmosphere around Roswell. Editors wanted dramatic stories that would attract readers, and flying disks offered perfect material. Reports appeared from many states, often with little investigation. Some were obvious mistakes. Others remained unexplained. When Roswell Army Airfield announced a recovered disk, newspapers suddenly had something more powerful than a sighting. They had official possession of evidence. That made the story irresistible. Critics believe the rush for headlines encouraged careless language and magnified a local error. Supporters argue that reporters captured a truth before military control tightened. The press also helped spread the later balloon explanation with equal speed. Within hours, the extraordinary story had been replaced in public memory. Roswell shows how quickly news can build and erase certainty. The same newspapers that introduced a captured disk soon presented harmless debris. Readers were left to choose which version deserved trust. The mystery survived because both stories arrived with the authority of print, and neither fully explained the reversal. Roswell's first announcement may have reflected confusion rather than planned disclosure. The flying disc statement may not have been a deliberate revelation. It could have emerged from a chain of assumptions inside a busy military command. Brazel reported unusual debris. Officers inspected it under pressure from national saucer headlines. Someone used the term flying disc before technical experts completed their examination. The Public Information Office then released wording that sounded more certain than the evidence justified. Once senior command saw the result, the mistake was corrected. This explanation requires no alien craft and no elaborate conspiracy. It requires only poor communication during an unusual event. Supporters of the cover-up theory find that too convenient. They argue that a sensitive atomic base would not issue such a statement without high-level approval. They also question why ordinary balloon parts caused so much confusion. Yet institutions often produce errors through rushed decisions and incomplete information. Roswell may have become legendary because a temporary misunderstanding reached the press before the military could contain it. The mystery would then be accidental rather than hidden. The rapid retraction may instead reveal a cover story created under pressure. The opposite interpretation begins with the speed of the reversal. Senior officers did not spend days examining the evidence before correcting Roswell. They changed the story within hours. Supporters believe this means the decision was political rather than scientific. The problem was not identifying the object. The problem was controlling the announcement. A weather balloon explanation could be assembled quickly because it used familiar materials and required no further questions. Reporters could photograph the wreckage and move on. Critics argue that rapid correction is exactly what should happen after a clear mistake. Once an experienced officer recognized balloon equipment, there was no reason to delay. Yet the retraction did more than offer a new identification. It transformed the people at Roswell from trusted professionals into men who had made an extraordinary error. That reputational cost seems significant. Perhaps it was accepted because the alternative was worse. Under this theory, the speed of the correction reveals urgency. Someone decided that public embarrassment was safer than allowing the original statement to remain alive. Cold War secrecy made even innocent explanations appear suspicious for generations. Roswell happened at the beginning of an era built on restricted information. Atomic research, intelligence operations, and advanced weapons development were hidden behind classification systems. Officials often gave incomplete explanations because telling the full truth could help an enemy. That culture created perfect conditions for lasting suspicion. A weather balloon could conceal Project Mogul. A test flight could be denied. Records could disappear through routine security procedures. Decades later, citizens would discover that governments had hidden many real programs. Each revelation made the Roswell cover-up seem more believable. Critics argue that secrecy surrounding human projects explains the mystery without requiring aliens. Supporters answer that the same system could easily hide extraterrestrial evidence. Both sides rely on the reality of classified government activity. Roswell became impossible to separate from the age that produced it. Even an innocent explanation looked deceptive because officials were trained to deceive about sensitive matters. The mystery survives partly because the government had genuine reasons to withhold information, and the public had genuine reasons to doubt whatever remained. Missing administrative records have prevented researchers from tracing every recovery order. A military recovery creates paperwork. Vehicles need fuel. Personnel receive assignments. Aircraft file routes. Equipment is transferred between units. Yet the Roswell record contains major gaps. Researchers cannot follow a complete chain from the ranch to every later destination. Some files may never have been created in ordinary systems because the operation was classified. Others may have been lost through routine disposal. Supporters believe the missing trail was deliberately broken to conceal extraordinary evidence. Critics note that military archives from the period are far from complete. Countless ordinary records vanished without any conspiracy. The difficulty lies in knowing which absence matters. One missing transport order might be meaningless. A pattern of missing orders around the same event could suggest intervention. Roswell's administrative silence prevents investigators from testing witness claims against official movement. Without those records, sealed crates can travel anywhere, and hidden teams can appear at any site. The gaps do not prove a cover-up. They create the space in which every possible cover-up continues to live. Government investigators discovered that important Roswell base files had been destroyed. During a later inquiry, investigators learned that certain records from Roswell Army Airfield no longer existed. Some administrative files covering the relevant period had been destroyed years earlier. The destruction did not automatically indicate wrongdoing because military agencies routinely removed old records. What raised concern was the lack of clear documentation explaining when the files disappeared and under whose authority. Supporters saw this as one of the strongest signs of deliberate concealment. The missing material could have included communications, orders, or staff records connected with the recovery. Critics argued that the files might contain nothing about Roswell at all. Record schedules were often poorly followed during reorganizations after the war. Even so, destruction closes doors that can never be reopened. Witness testimony can be challenged, but a lost document cannot defend itself. The mystery gains strength from what no longer exists. Somewhere within those files may have been an ordinary explanation. Somewhere may also have been the one order that proved the event was treated as something extraordinary. The destruction reportedly occurred without documentation explaining who authorized it or why. Record disposal normally leaves its own record. Someone approves the action, identifies the files, and notes the reason they are no longer required. In the Roswell case, later investigators could not find a complete explanation for the destruction of certain base records. This absence created a second mystery surrounding the first. It was not only the files that were missing. The story of their disappearance was missing too. Supporters argue that this is exactly how sensitive evidence would be erased. Remove the documents, then remove the trail showing who removed them. Critics caution that archival practices in earlier decades were often inconsistent. An administrative failure can look deliberate after enough time has passed. Yet unexplained destruction carries a special weight in a case built on secrecy. The records might have settled questions about personnel movements and command decisions. Instead, their absence forces every theory back toward testimony. Roswell remains unresolved, partly because the documents that could challenge memory were lost through a process that memory cannot explain. A congressional inquiry failed to locate records that might settle the mystery. In the 1990s, political pressure led to a formal search for Roswell records. The Government Accountability Office asked military agencies to identify relevant documents and explain what had happened. The inquiry uncovered information about destroyed files, but did not reveal proof of an alien recovery. For skeptics, this strengthened the view that no extraordinary evidence existed. Supporters saw a different lesson. Even congressional investigators could not force every secret into the open. Agencies searched their own collections, which meant deeply compartmented material might remain beyond normal requests. The inquiry also occurred almost 5 decades after the incident. Witnesses had died, records had vanished, and institutions had changed names. The investigation could examine what survived, but not what had already been removed. Roswell therefore passed through one of the highest levels of public scrutiny without reaching closure. The government looked for the answer and returned with another gap. That outcome allowed both sides to claim support. Nothing alien was found, yet nothing fully resolved why important records were missing. Official Air Force reports linked Roswell debris to the classified Project Mogul. The Air Force eventually produced a detailed explanation connecting the ranch debris with Project Mogul. The report argued that a balloon train carried radar reflectors and monitoring equipment into the region. When it came down, the scattered materials created confusion among people who did not know the mission. This account explained why the program was secret and why the original weather balloon story was incomplete. It also offered photographs and technical comparisons that matched several early descriptions. Critics of the alien theory considered the case largely solved. Roswell supporters remained unconvinced because the report relied on reconstruction rather than a surviving label attached to the recovered debris. They also disputed which Mogul flight could have landed there. The official explanation was therefore strong in context but weaker in direct identification. No one produced the exact instrument package recovered by Marcel. The Air Force described what probably happened based on known operations. Roswell continued because probability did not satisfy people who believed the witnesses had described something physically impossible. A later report connected body stories with military test dummies from subsequent years. After explaining the debris, the Air Force addressed claims about small bodies. It suggested that some witnesses had blended the Roswell incident with later military tests involving anthropomorphic dummies. These human-shaped figures were dropped from aircraft to study high-altitude escape and impact. Recovery teams arrived with vehicles and specialized equipment which could resemble descriptions of a guarded crash site. The theory offered a conventional source for memories that appeared decades after 1947. Critics immediately noticed a major problem. The dummy tests began years later. Supporters of the report argued that memory often combined separate events without preserving exact dates. Roswell residents may have remembered unusual recoveries from the 1950s and attached them to the famous incident. Believers rejected this as an attempt to explain testimony with events that happened too late. The dummy theory became almost as controversial as the body claims themselves. It showed how far the official investigation was willing to reach for a conventional explanation. It also revealed how unstable memory can become across half a century. Critics note that those test dummy operations began long after the incident. The date problem remains the greatest weakness in the dummy explanation. Roswell occurred in July of 1947. The relevant high-altitude dummy drops began during the following decade. That gap is too large for many investigators to accept. Witnesses who remembered bodies at the crash would need to have moved later experiences backward by several years. Supporters of memory blending argue that people often remember the event more clearly than the date. Once Roswell became famous, separate military scenes could merge into one story. Critics answer that several witnesses tied their memories directly to the original recovery. They see the later tests as a convenient explanation chosen because the dummies resembled small human forms. The Air Force never claimed that dummies were present at the ranch in 1947. It claimed that later events influenced later testimony. That distinction is important, but often lost. The debate is therefore not about hidden dummies at Roswell. It is about whether decades of memory can collapse several unusual military operations into a single, unforgettable night. Memory researchers suggest later events may have merged with recollections from 1947. Human memory does not function like a recording. Each time an event is recalled, it can be influenced by later information. A witness may preserve the emotional center of an experience while changing its timing or details. Roswell offers ideal conditions for this process. Residents saw military activity over many years. They later encountered books, interviews, films, and public debates about the incident. Separate memories could gradually join together without conscious invention. This explanation allows witnesses to be sincere while still being mistaken. Supporters of the alien interpretation argue that memory science can be used too broadly. It may explain every inconvenient detail without proving which one changed. They also note that some accounts appeared before Roswell became a major cultural phenomenon. The question is not whether memory can shift. It certainly can. The question is whether it shifted enough to create craft, bodies, and threats from ordinary events. Roswell sits at the difficult boundary between testimony that feels honest and history that cannot be independently confirmed. Decades of interviews may have altered witnesses' memories through repeated suggestion. Roswell witnesses were often interviewed many times by researchers who already believed particular theories. Questions could introduce details before the witness mentioned them. A person might be asked about strange symbols, unusual metal, or military threats. Even a denial could plant an image that returned during a later conversation. Over years, the witness might become more confident about details that began as suggestions. This process does not require dishonesty from either side. Investigators naturally pursue leads, and witnesses naturally try to make sense of incomplete memories. Critics believe repeated interviews help transform a sparse event into a detailed alien narrative. Supporters argue that careful researchers compared accounts and rejected obvious contamination. They also note that some witnesses resisted expected stories. Still, the interview history matters because testimony did not emerge in a vacuum. It developed through conversation. Roswell's evidence was partly created by the method used to collect it. The mystery may therefore contain not only memories of 1947, but also traces of every question asked afterward. Witnesses sometimes became more certain as their accounts grew increasingly elaborate. Several Roswell stories gained detail over time. Early statements were cautious or limited. Later versions included clearer descriptions of craft, bodies, locations, and military behavior. This pattern concerns skeptics because genuine memory usually loses detail rather than gaining it. They suspect that repetition, publicity, and outside influence strengthened narratives that began uncertainly. Supporters offer another interpretation. Witnesses may have revealed information gradually as fear weakened. A person who once concealed the most sensitive details could become more open near the end of life. Confidence might therefore reflect release rather than invention. The challenge is deciding which process occurred in each case. Growing detail can signal contamination, but it can also signal trust. Roswell witnesses lived with a story that changed from embarrassing mistake to global mystery. Their own understanding may have changed with it. Later certainty does not prove accuracy, yet early silence does not prove ignorance. Every expanding account forces the same difficult choice. Was the witness remembering more or learning how the story was expected to sound? Yet several central witnesses maintained remarkably consistent doubts about the balloon explanation. Not every Roswell account expanded dramatically. Some key witnesses repeated the same basic objection for years. They did not accept that the recovered material was ordinary balloon equipment. Their descriptions varied in detail, but the central belief remained stable. Supporters argue that this consistency deserves serious attention. People who handled the debris believed the public explanation was false, and they continued saying so after the story became controversial. Critics note that a stable belief can still begin with a mistaken impression. Once someone commits to an interpretation, later memory often reinforces it. The witnesses also spoke within a culture that treated Roswell as an alien case. Even so, their resistance prevented the official account from closing the mystery. They were not merely distant observers repeating rumors. Some had direct roles in the recovery or immediate aftermath. Their doubts became the foundation on which later theories were built. Roswell survives because the people closest to the material did not all agree with the explanation given in their name. Physical fragments attributed to Roswell have repeatedly appeared without verified chains of custody. Over the years, people have presented small pieces of metal and claimed they came from the Roswell debris field. Some were said to have been hidden by witnesses before the military completed its search. Others appeared through families who believed a relative had preserved evidence. Each fragment carried enormous promise. A genuine sample could be tested for composition, structure, and manufacturing method. The problem was provenance. No object arrived with an unbroken record showing who found it, where it was stored, and how it changed hands. Without that chain of custody, even unusual material cannot be securely linked to Roswell. Supporters argue that secrecy made formal documentation impossible. Anyone hiding a fragment would avoid creating a record. Critics note that this reasoning also protects false claims. An ordinary piece of metal can acquire an extraordinary story after its origin is forgotten. Roswell's physical evidence remains trapped between possibility and proof. The fragments can be tested, but the event they supposedly represent cannot be attached to them with confidence. Laboratory tests usually identify alleged wreckage as ordinary industrial or terrestrial material. When claimed Roswell fragments reach laboratories, the results have generally been disappointing for believers. Samples have been identified as common aluminium alloys, industrial slag, or other materials produced on Earth. Isotopic measurements have not demonstrated an origin beyond the solar system. These findings support the view that surviving pieces are unrelated to any exotic craft. Supporters caution that ordinary composition does not prove ordinary use. An advanced object could still employ familiar elements arranged in unusual ways. They also argue that genuine fragments may never have escaped military control. Critics respond that extraordinary claims require more than stories surrounding ordinary metal. Each failed test reduces the chance that publicly held debris contains the answer. Yet the testing process still matters. Roswell remains one of the few mysteries where a small physical sample could transform the entire debate. So far, none has done so. The alleged wreckage continues to look terrestrial under scientific examination, even while witness descriptions suggest properties that no surviving sample has reproduced. Supporters believe the genuine debris vanished into secure facilities before public testing. The absence of exotic material can itself be folded into the cover-up theory. Supporters argue that recovery teams removed every important fragment within days. What remained in private hands would be minor debris or unrelated material collected later. The genuine wreckage could have entered laboratories where access was restricted by classification and security oaths. This explains why public samples repeatedly fail. They are not the material witnesses originally described. Critics see this as an unfalsifiable escape. Any ordinary result becomes proof, but the real evidence is elsewhere. Yet a competent recovery operation would certainly prioritize physical control. Unknown technology could reveal propulsion methods, manufacturing techniques, or vulnerabilities. Leaving fragments with civilians would risk the greatest intelligence loss in history. The theory therefore has internal logic even without confirmation. Roswell's evidence may not be missing by accident. It may have been secured so completely that every later search began after the important material was already gone. The public debate would then be built entirely around substitutes, memories, and deliberate dead ends. The alien autopsy film revived Roswell before its creators admitted staging key scenes. In the 1990s, footage appeared that seemed to show doctors examining a non-human body. The film was promoted as a record connected with the Roswell recovery. Its stark black and white images reached a huge audience and renewed interest in the case. For many viewers, it felt like the first direct look at evidence hidden for decades. Experts soon questioned the set, instruments, camera technique, and appearance of the body. Years later, people involved admitted that major portions had been staged using a constructed model. The revelation damaged public trust and gave skeptics a powerful example of Roswell deception. Yet the film had already changed the mystery. It introduced visual details that could influence later memory and popular culture. Supporters who once defended it faced a difficult retreat. Critics saw proof that extraordinary claims could be manufactured for profit. The film did not reveal an alien autopsy. It revealed how strongly audiences wanted to believe that forbidden evidence had finally escaped. Its producer later claimed the reconstruction preserved images from lost authentic footage. Even after admitting that the famous film was staged, producer Ray Santilli offered a final twist. He said the reconstruction had been based on genuine footage that deteriorated before it could be fully preserved. According to this claim, the public film copied scenes from an authentic military recording. The staged version was therefore presented as a recreation, rather than a complete invention. critics found this explanation impossible to verify and convenient after exposure. No surviving original has been produced for independent examination. Supporters remain intrigued because the admission did not fully abandon the central story. It created a hidden source behind the known hoax. This pattern is familiar within Roswell research. Evidence fails, yet a deeper layer is proposed beyond reach. The reconstruction claim allows the film to remain connected with authenticity while avoiding direct testing. It may be an attempt to protect a profitable legend. It may also preserve fragments of something once seen but now lost. The audience is left with images that are false and a source that cannot be examined. Roswell transformed a quiet military town into the global capital of alien folklore. For decades, Roswell was known mainly for ranching and military history. The revival of the incident changed the town's identity. Museums, festivals, shops, and public art embraced the alien connection. Visitors arrived from around the world to stand near a mystery that had no agreed location or surviving craft. This commercial transformation led critics to question whether tourism encouraged ever larger claims. Supporters argue that the town preserved a story official institutions preferred to forget. Roswell became a place where witnesses could speak and outsiders could explore unconventional ideas without immediate dismissal. The cultural impact also gave the incident a life beyond evidence. Even people who know little about the case recognize the name. It now represents secret recoveries, government denial, and possible contact with another intelligence. That symbolic power is extraordinary. A brief newspaper story from 1947 reshaped an entire community. Whether the original object was alien or ordinary, Roswell became something far larger than the event itself. The incident endures because every explanation leaves someone convinced something remains hidden. Roswell has received more than one official explanation and countless alternative ones. None has persuaded everyone. Project Mogul explains classified balloon activity, but does not satisfy witnesses who remembered impossible material. Memory research explains changing testimony, but cannot prove that every extraordinary detail was created later. Alien theories account for secrecy, but lack authenticated physical evidence. Secret weapon ideas fit the region, yet rarely match every claim. Each answer closes one part of the case while opening another. That is why Roswell remains more powerful than mysteries with no explanation at all. The competing explanations create tension rather than resolution. People are not only asking what crashed, they are asking how truth behaves when governments classify information and witnesses remember events across decades. Perhaps the final answer is entirely human. Perhaps it would change our understanding of life in the universe. Until decisive evidence appears, Roswell remains suspended between those possibilities. Its greatest mystery may be why certainty always seems close, yet never quite arrives. Tonight we followed the Roswell incident from a lonely ranch in New Mexico to military offices, guarded airfields, hidden laboratories, and records that may no longer exist. We heard how one official announcement changed almost immediately. We considered strange debris, disputed witnesses, missing files, secret flights, and claims that the truth moved far beyond the desert. We also explored the possibility that Roswell was shaped by classified balloons, experimental aircraft, Cold War fear, or deliberate misinformation. Perhaps the mystery began with something ordinary that secrecy made extraordinary. Perhaps it involved technology that the public was never meant to understand. Or perhaps the event became so tangled with rumor and memory that the original truth can no longer be separated from everything that followed. Whatever happened near Roswell, the unanswered questions still remain. Somewhere beneath all the reports and denials, there may be one simple explanation. There may also be a discovery that changed history without ever entering the official story. But for now, the desert can grow still again. Let the distant airfield fade from your thoughts. Let the last military vehicles disappear beyond the horizon. The files can remain closed for another night, and the questions can wait until morning. Allow your breathing to become slower. Let your shoulders sink into the surface beneath you. There is nothing left to investigate and nowhere else you need to go. If you enjoyed this journey, you are welcome to leave a thought, subscribe, or share the video with another curious mind. And if you happen to still be awake, another mystery is waiting for you on the screen. For now, let Roswell return to the darkness of the New Mexico desert. Let the final unanswered question drift out of reach as you settle more deeply into rest. Sleep well and good night.